Okay, so I just found a flaw. I went to start painting this and I realized it was next to the one I just finished. So I can't paint right here. So I'm going to take and move my hue gradation to a spot that doesn't touch this. So I'm going to go over here. Less space to work. So I'll just have to have more control. All right, let's try that again. So I'm adding some water into this space so the paint can flow into each other easily. Again, gentle on the brush. And I'm going to start off with the blue color here, and you can see it's just naturally already spreading over to that side. So I can bring some of the paint out. A couple ways I could approach this. I could start to make my purple in the lid, and I could mix it in here. Taking some of this magenta and adding it in. Or I could also try doing all the mixing right on the paper. So I could get some pure magenta, put it over here, and then start blending the colors together. Right now I'm feeling like I'm getting a little bit puddly, so controlling the water is going to help me control my paint. So I'm going to make sure I have enough color on there, but I'm going to actually drip my paintbrush into the water and get some of that extra water away from there, and now I can start to pick up some of these puddles and I can have a little bit more control. And it's overlapping the brush strokes that's going to make that gradation possible. I can change directions with it as long as I don't go too far too fast. So right now it is going from the blue to the magenta. The edge is pretty rough on it. I can still rework this. I'm going to switch, at least for now, to my smaller brush. Picking up the blue, kind of bringing it down here, pulling my magenta down, working it back. I'm getting this puddle that's kind of out of control, so I'm going to dry off my brush and try to even the amount of water out. You can see I'm using short brush strokes here, longer brush strokes. If the purple is coming over too far, I'm going to clean my brush off because I want to just have some pure magenta there by itself. Maybe I'll even get a little bit more magenta. And I can work the brush side to side as well. Making a red violet, making a violet violet, and a blue violet. Okay, so right now it's very striped. So I'm just going to change the direction of my pencil strokes, my brush strokes, and even them out. Really gentle. And that's it. Let it flow and do its thing. If I want to pull it down to the edge, I can do that. That's done. We're going to let that be. Okay. So now I'm going back over to this place and I'm going to do an intensity gradation. So intensity is going from bright to dull. So I'm definitely going to stick with using the blue again. So to make it duller, I need to go to the color that's opposite. So it's going to be the orange. As I mix that in, I can either just go from bright blue to a dull blue, or I can go from a bright blue to a dull blue to a brown to an orangey brown and all the way to an orange. For the sake of just showing you what blue can do, I'm just going to go from the blue to a dull blue to maybe a brown or a neutral color. Okay, so this is showing up a little bit more now because my water has got that purpley tone to it. So you can see as I'm adding water onto the paper there, it's got some color from there. And let me start off with my blue. I'm going to do it here. I'm going to do the intense blue here. Okay, you can see how puddly this is. So it's a lot of water. It's going to be tough to control. This brush holds a lot of water. Look at that glaring highlight right across that edge. That's just going to be really difficult to not let spread into places where you don't want it. So I am going to switch over to the smaller brush. I'm going to turn this to make it easier to work. So I can always pull my brush down. And I'm just going to start by outlining this and getting the blue into those corners. I'm going to pull this across. All right, so now to make a dull blue, I'm going to add in orange. And I can make it on my lid, but I just want to show you how you can actually do mixing right on your paper. So if I'm going to grab some orange and put it down here, that looks like a really strong contrast. But remembering that blue is a strong color, as I start to pull this in, you can see it's already making kind of a dull color. Maybe I'll even grab just a little tiny bit more blue, just a little bit, and mix that in. And again, I'm doing short brush strokes, but I'm not going very far with them. I'm only doing them maybe like a ½ inch wide as I work my way across. And I also don't need to make this like a really solid coat of paint. If you look, you can still see the paper through mine and the texture through mine. So right now, I still want this to look a little less orange. So I'm gonna add in what was just on my brush. I did not get any more color. I'm just taking the blue that was on my brush and I'm mixing that in, and now I'm going to just change directions. And again, I like to pull the brush, so I'm going to switch and work my way from top down. It's almost making like a gray. I'm going to zoom in and do one final brush pass through it. I'm going to dry off my brush, and I'm going to just pick up this puddle along the edge and try to even that out a little bit. All right, so that shows you some basic washes. I've just got a regular wash, a value gradation, a hue gradation, and an intensity gradation.